The morning started like any other in the Kepler system. 3 peaceful planets orbited their quiet sun, filled with beings who had never known war. The Keplerian people were tall, graceful creatures with blue skin and large eyes. They spent their days studying the stars and building beautiful cities that looked like works of art. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his exploration ship, the Harmony. Through the wide windows he could see the other ships in their small fleet. Each vessel was designed for discovery, not fighting. Their hulls were smooth and elegant, painted in soft colors that reflected the Keplerian love of beauty. "Sir, we are picking up strange signals," reported his communications officer. The young Keplerian's voice carried worry. "Multiple ships approaching from the edge of our system." Veltar frowned. Visitors were always welcome in their space, but these signals felt different. "Aggressive. Put them on the main screen," he ordered. The display flickered to life, showing massive dark ships moving toward their world. These vessels were nothing like the peaceful exploration crafts the Keplerians knew. They were built like weapons, all sharp angles and heavy armor. Gunports lined their sides like hungry mouths. "This is Admiral Zexhai of the Vorthan Empire." A harsh voice filled the bridge. The alien speaking had a face like carved stone, with cold yellow eyes. "You will surrender your worlds immediately. Resistance will result in your complete destruction." Veltar's hands shook as he activated the emergency beacon. The Keplerians had no military, no weapons of war. Their ships carried only basic shields meant to protect against space debris. "Please," he broadcast back, "we are a peaceful people. We have done nothing to harm you." Admiral Zexhai laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your peace makes you weak. The Vorthan Empire has use for your worlds. Your people can serve us as workers, or they can die. The choice is yours." Across the Vorthan fleet, 12 massive dreadnoughts powered up their weapons. Each ship was 3 times larger than the biggest Keplerian vessel. Their crews had trained for war since childhood, knowing only conquest and domination. "All ships prepare for battle," Zexhai commanded his fleet. "Show these peaceful fools what happens to those who stand in our way." The first Vorthan energy beams lit up space like deadly lightning. They struck the Keplerian ships with devastating force. The beautiful exploration vessels, never meant for combat, began to break apart under the assault. Veltar watched in horror as 3 of his ships exploded in brilliant flashes. "Send the distress signal to all frequencies," he shouted over the sound of alarms. "Someone must know what is happening here." Far from the battle, in the depths of space, another ship received that desperate call for help. The USS Defiance was nothing like the elegant Keplerian vessels or the brutal Vorthan warships. It was built by humans, a species most of the galaxy barely knew existed. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, reading the morning reports. He was a man in his 40s with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war. His ship was on routine patrol near the Outer Rim, far from Earth and the colonies. Captain were receiving a distress signal, called Lieutenant Amy Carter from her weapons station. She was young but skilled, having trained in Earth's military academies. "It's coming from the Kepler system." Morrison's second-in-command, Lisa Hayes, looked up from her console. She was a calm woman who had served with Morrison for 5 years. "Sir, the signal indicates a massive attack in progress. Multiple civilian casualties." Morrison stood and walked to the main display. The signal was weak but clear enough to understand. Peaceful people were dying while the galaxy watched. "What's our estimated travel time to Kepler, Chief Engineer?" Pete Johnson's voice came through the intercom from the engine room. "Give me 30 minutes to charge the hyperspace drive, Captain. We can be there in 2 hours." Morrison nodded. Around him, his crew of 800 began preparing for whatever they might find. These were men and women who had joined Earth's Space Force not for glory but to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're responding to a distress call in the Kepler system," Morrison ordered. "Pete, I want maximum power to all systems. Amy, run diagnostics on all weapons." The Defiance was not the largest ship in space, but it was built for war. Unlike the peaceful Keplerians or even the Vorthan military, humans had learned to fight in ways that terrified other species. Earth had known constant conflict for thousands of years. War was not just something humans did, it was something they had perfected. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Morrison thought about the reports he had read about other species. Most galactic civilizations fought with honor and tradition. They followed rules and patterns that made sense to them. Humans had learned long ago that survival meant abandoning such limitations. The bridge crew worked in quiet efficiency. Each person knew their job and trusted their captain completely. Morrison had led them through the civil wars that had torn apart the outer colonies. They had seen him make impossible decisions and win battles that should have been lost. 2 hours to Kepler system, reported the navigation officer. Morrison sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. He thought about the peaceful people who were dying while he traveled through space. The Keplerians had never hurt anyone. They explored and learned and created beautiful things. Now someone was trying to destroy them simply because they could. All hands, this is the captain. Morrison's voice echoed through every corridor of the ship. We are responding to an attack on peaceful civilians. When we arrive, we will be outnumbered and outgunned. But we will not let innocent people die while we can prevent it. Prepare for battle. In the Kepler system, the slaughter continued. Half of the Keplerian fleet was already destroyed. Captain Veltar's ship, the Harmony, barely held together under the Vorthan assault. His crew worked desperately to help evacuate civilians from the planets below. Admiral Zexhai watched the destruction with satisfaction. These peaceful fools had no idea how to fight. Their ships fell apart like toys under his fleet's guns. Soon, the Kepler worlds would belong to the Vorthan Empire. The distress signal continued to broadcast into space, carrying news of the attack to anyone who might listen. Most species would debate and discuss before taking action. By then, the Keplerians would be dead or enslaved. But humans were different. They heard the call for help and simply responded. The USS Defiance raced through hyperspace toward a battle that would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. The USS Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, like a metal predator entering a hunting ground. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed the ongoing battle. Red dots marked Vorthan ships, while blue dots showed what remained of the Keplerian fleet. Too many blue dots had already gone dark. Report, Morrison said quietly. Lieutenant Amy Carter's fingers moved quickly over her weapons console. 12. Fourth-hand dreadnoughts engaged with Keplerian forces. Enemy ships are twice our size, Captain. Their firepower readings are off the charts. Commander Lisa Hayes studied her sensors. The Keplerian ships weren't built for war, sir. They're being slaughtered. I count only 4 of their vessels still operational. Morrison watched the display as another blue dot disappeared. Another ship full of peaceful beings who had never hurt anyone. His jaw tightened. Distance to the battle? 15 minutes at full speed, reported the navigation officer. On the Vorthan flagship, Admiral Zexhai noticed the new arrival on his sensors. The unknown ship was much smaller than his dreadnoughts. Its design was unfamiliar, blocky and crude compared to the elegant lines of most galactic vessels. Communications. Hail that ship, Zexhai ordered. Tell them to leave immediately, or share the fate of these peaceful fools. The communications officer tried to contact the approaching vessel but received no response. Sir, they are not answering our hails. Zexhai laughed. Another primitive species thinking they can play hero. Let them come. We will add their wreckage to the debris field. Across the galaxy, other species monitored the battle through long-range sensors and communication networks. The Galactic Council members watched from their safe chambers, debating whether to intervene. The Altarian Federation expressed concern, but took no action. The Centauri Republic sent diplomatic protests that would arrive long after the battle ended. In their monitoring stations, alien observers noted the arrival of the human ship with mild interest. Most had never heard of humanity. Those who had dismissed them as a backward species that had barely achieved space travel. The general, Consensus was that this unknown vessel would be destroyed within minutes. Captain Morrison studied the battle as his ship approached. The Vorthon formation was textbook perfect, a classic hammer and anvil assault that trapped the Keplerian ships between two groups of attackers. It was efficient and brutal, designed to minimize Vorthon losses while maximizing enemy casualties. "Amy, what do you see?" Morrison asked his weapons officer. Carter's eyes moved across her displays. "They're fighting like it's a parade, sir. Perfect formations, coordinated volleys, everything by the book. No creativity, no adaptation." Morrison nodded. Most galactic species fought wars like they were following ancient traditions. Honor, glory, and established tactics mattered more than victory. Humans had learned to abandon such luxuries long ago. "Lisa, get me a channel to the surviving Keplerian ships," Morrison ordered. Commander Hayes worked her communications system. "Channel open, sir." "Keplerian vessels, this is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Defiance. We are here to help. Move your ships away from the enemy formation and assist with civilian evacuation." Captain Veltar's voice came through, filled with desperation and hope. "Captain Morrison, we are grateful for any help, but you are only one ship. The Vorthons have 12 dreadnoughts. Please, save yourselves." Morrison's response was calm and confident. "Captain Veltar, humans have been fighting impossible odds for thousands of years. Just focus on getting your people to safety." Admiral Zexhai had been listening to the transmission. He activated his fleet communications. "All ships, we have a single primitive vessel approaching. After we destroy it, we will finish off the remaining Keplerians. This will be over within the hour." The USS Defiance continued its approach, and the galactic observers prepared to watch another peaceful species die trying to help. The human ship looked tiny compared to the massive Vorthon dreadnoughts. Its weapons seemed crude, and its armor appeared thin. On the Defiance's bridge, Chief Engineer Pete Johnson's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, all systems are running at full power. Weapons are loaded and ready. Engines are pushed to maximum efficiency." Morrison walked to his command chair but remained standing. Around him, his crew prepared for battle with the calm efficiency that had kept them alive through Earth's civil wars. Each person knew their job and trusted their training. "Amy, target their command ship first," Morrison said. "Lisa, monitor their communications. I want to know what they're thinking." "Sir," Carter said, checking her targeting systems. "Their flagship has the heaviest armor and weapons. It's going to be a tough nut to crack." Morrison smiled grimly. "Amy, we're not going to crack it. We're going to cut it apart piece by piece." The Vorthon fleet maintained its formation as the human ship approached. Admiral Zexhai felt confident in his superior numbers and firepower. His ships had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated countless enemies. One primitive vessel posed no threat. "Fire a warning shot across their bow," Zexhai ordered. "Give them one last chance to flee." A massive energy beam lanced out from the Vorthon flagship, passing just in front of the USS Defiance. The shot was meant to intimidate, to show the overwhelming power the humans faced. Morrison watched the energy beam pass his ship and felt no fear. He had seen Earth's cities burn and watched friends die in battles against impossible odds. This was just another day at war. "All hands, this is the captain," Morrison announced throughout his ship. "We are about to engage a superior enemy force to protect innocent civilians. Remember your training, trust your equipment, take care of each other. Today we show the galaxy what humans are capable of." The crew responded not with cheers or battle cries, but with quiet determination. They checked their stations one final time and prepared to do their jobs. On the Vorthon flagship, Admiral Zexhai watched the human ship continue its approach without slowing down. "They're either brave or stupid," he muttered. "Either way, they're about to be dead." The galactic observers focused their sensors on the approaching battle. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the lone human vessel approached 12 enemy dreadnoughts. Most expected to witness a brief, one-sided slaughter. "Target acquired," Carter reported. "All weapon systems are locked onto the enemy flagship." Morrison looked at the tactical display one last time. The Vorthon ships were arranged in a perfect formation, following military doctrine that was thousands of years old. They expected their enemy to follow the same rules, to fight with honor and tradition. They were about to learn that humans had never heard of those rules. "Engage," Morrison said quietly. The USS Defiance accelerated toward the Vorthon fleet like a bullet fired from a gun. Instead of slowing down or maneuvering into a traditional battle formation, the human ship aimed directly at the heart of the enemy fleet. Its weapons began to charge, preparing to deliver the kind of precise, devastating attack that had made humanity masters of war. Admiral Zexhai watched in confusion as the human ship's attack run began. What are they doing? That's not how space battles are fought. The galactic observers leaned forward in their monitoring stations. Something about this approach felt different, dangerous in a way they had never seen before. The human ship moved, with purpose and confidence that suggested its crew knew exactly what they were doing. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching his enemy's formation with the eyes of a predator. The Vorthons had made their first mistake by assuming all species fought the same way. Now they were about to discover that humanity had turned warfare into something far more terrible and effective than anyone else in the galaxy had imagined. The first salvo from the USS Defiance tore through space like concentrated lightning. Lieutenant Amy Carter's targeting was perfect, sending a stream of kinetic rounds and guided missiles directly into the Vorthon flagship's communication array. The impact sent debris spinning into the void and left Admiral Zexhai's ship temporarily blind to its fleet status. Direct hit on their communications, Carter reported. They can't coordinate with their other ships. Captain Morrison nodded. Lisa, what are they saying? Commander Hayes monitored the enemy frequencies. Lots of confusion, sir. They're trying to switch to backup systems, but our attack damaged more than just their main array. The galactic observers watching the battle felt their first moment of surprise. Most space combat began with formal challenges and honorable single combat between flagships. The human ship had instead struck like an assassin, targeting not weapons or engines but the enemy's ability to fight as a unified force. Admiral Zexhai slammed his fist on his command chair. Return fire! All ships, destroy that primitive vessel. But the USS Defiance was no longer where the Vorthon guns were aimed. Captain Morrison had ordered an immediate course change after the first attack, sending his ship into a spiraling dive that carried it between two enemy dreadnoughts. The massive Vorthon vessels, built for long-range bombardment, couldn't turn fast enough to track the smaller, more agile human ship. They're too slow, Morrison observed, watching the enemy ships struggle to reposition. Amy, target the engines, on the ship to our starboard side. Carter's weapons found their mark again. Instead of trying to destroy the entire enemy vessel, she focused on specific systems. The Vorthon dreadnought's main engines exploded in a chain reaction that left the massive ship drifting helplessly. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson's voice came through the intercom. Captain, I'm pushing the engines past their safety limits. We can maintain this speed for maybe 20 minutes before we risk a core breach. Understood, Pete. Make every minute count. The USS Defiance continued its deadly dance through the Vorthon formation. Instead of engaging in the traditional ship-to-ship duels that most species expected, the human vessel struck quickly and moved on. Each attack targeted critical systems, leaving enemy ships crippled rather than destroyed. On the monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, alien observers struggled to understand what they were seeing. The human fighting style violated every principle of honorable combat they knew. There were no formal challenges, no single combats, no mercy for disabled enemies. Barbaric, muttered an Altarian commander. They fight like animals. But other observers began to notice the terrible efficiency of the human tactics. Every shot had a purpose. Every maneuver was calculated to cause maximum damage while avoiding enemy fire. This wasn't random violence. It was warfare refined to a deadly art. Admiral Zexhai finally managed to restore partial communications with his fleet. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel. Use pattern delta formation. The remaining Vorthon ships began to move into their traditional battle formation, a defensive circle that would allow them to provide mutual support while focusing their firepower on a single target. It was a classic tactic that had served the Empire well for centuries. Morrison watched the enemy ships begin their maneuver and smiled grimly. They're still thinking like this is a formal battle. Amy, do you see what I see? Carter studied her. Tactical display. Yes, sir. They're bunching up, making themselves easier targets, and they're slowing down to maintain formation. Exactly. Lisa, what's the status on those Keplerian ships? Hayes checked her sensors. Captain Veltar has evacuated most of his remaining crew to the civilian transports. They're moving away from the battle zone as ordered. Morrison nodded. The innocent people were getting to safety. Now he could focus entirely on the enemy. Pete, I need everything you can give me. We're going to make one more run. The USS Defiance suddenly changed course, heading directly toward the center of the forming Vorthen circle. From the outside, it looked like a suicide attack. The human ship was flying straight into the combined firepower of 10 remaining enemy dreadnoughts. What are they doing? Admiral HFY shouted. Are they insane? But Morrison had seen something the Vorthan commander missed. The enemy ships were so focused on maintaining their formation that they had created a gap in their defensive fire, a narrow corridor where their own ships blocked each other's line of sight. Now, Amy. Carter unleashed everything the Defiance had. Kinetic rounds, guided missiles, and energy beams poured from the human ship as it raced through the gap in the Vorthan formation. But instead of targeting one ship, she spread her fire across multiple targets, hitting engines, weapons, and command centers. The human ship emerged from the other side of the enemy formation, leaving chaos behind. 3 Vorthan dreadnoughts were dead in space, their engines destroyed. 2 more had lost their main weapons. The carefully planned defensive circle collapsed as damaged ships drifted out of position. Across the galaxy, the observers fell silent. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. A single ship had attacked 10 enemies simultaneously and emerged not only intact, but victorious. The human vessel had turned the enemy's formation against them, using their own defensive strategy as a weapon. Impossible, whispered a Centauri admiral. No one fights like that, but humans did fight like that. They had learned on Earth that survival meant abandoning honor when innocent lives were at stake. They had discovered that the enemy's expectations could be turned into weaknesses. Most importantly, they had mastered the art of making impossible. Victories look easy. Admiral HFY stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Half his fleet was crippled or destroyed by a single enemy ship. His carefully trained crews, veterans of dozens of conquests, had been outfought by beings they had never heard of. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human ship is coming, around for another attack run. Morrison studied the remaining enemy vessels. 7 ships were still combat-capable, but their formation was broken and their confidence was shattered. Amy, target their weapons this time. I want them to surrender, not die. The USS Defiance began its next attack run, and the Vorthen ships opened fire desperately. But their shots went wide as Morrison employed evasive maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. The human ship twisted and spun through the enemy fire like it was dancing rather than fighting. How are they moving like that? Demanded Admiral HFY. His navigation officer checked his instruments twice before answering. Sir, they're using microbursts from their maneuvering thrusters. The technique is incredibly dangerous. One mistake would tear their ship apart, but there were no mistakes. The USS Defiance moved through the battlefield with the precision of a surgeon's blade, striking exactly where it needed to and avoiding every shot fired at it. The human crew worked together with the kind of perfect coordination that only came from years of fighting impossible battles and winning. Carter's next barrage targeted the weapon systems of 4 enemy ships simultaneously. Her targeting was so precise that she disabled their guns without causing any explosions that might kill the crews. When the attack was over, 4 more Vorthen dreadnoughts floated helplessly in space. 3 ships remaining, Carter reported. All showing signs of engine stress. I think they're about to retreat. Morrison opened a channel to the surviving Vorthen vessels. Attention Vorthen ships. This is Captain Morrison of the USS Defiance. You will cease your attack on the Keplerian people and withdraw from this system immediately. If you comply, we will allow you to collect your damaged vessels and leave in peace. Admiral HFY's face appeared on the communication screen. His Expression showed a mixture of rage and fear. You think you have won, human? The Empire has thousands of ships. We will return with a fleet that will destroy your entire species. Morrison's response was calm and confident. Admiral, you came here with 12 ships and the best crews in your empire. We are one ship with 800 humans. If you want to bring thousands of ships to fight us, we welcome the challenge. But first you will leave these peaceful people alone. The truth of those words hit Admiral HFY like a physical blow. This single human ship had destroyed or disabled 9 of his dreadnoughts. If humans could build more ships like this one, if they had fleets of such vessels, all ships withdraw, he ordered quietly. The remaining Vorthon vessels began to retreat, collecting their damaged ships as they went. Admiral HFY's conquest had become a humiliating defeat, and he knew the news would spread throughout the galaxy within days. As the enemy fleet limped away, Captain Morrison finally sat down in his command chair. His crew had fought perfectly, turning what should have been a hopeless battle into a complete victory. Around him, the bridge crew continued their duties with the same quiet professionalism they had shown throughout the fight. The galactic observers sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. A single human ship had defeated an entire Vorthon fleet, using tactics and strategies unlike anything they had ever seen. The implications were staggering. The Keplerian survivors watched in amazement as the last Vorthon ships disappeared into hyperspace. Captain Veltar's damaged vessel, the Harmony, drifted slowly toward the USS Defiance. His crew worked frantically to repair their communications systems so they could properly thank their rescuers. Captain Morrison, Veltar's voice finally came through clearly. What you have done here is beyond our understanding. Our entire species owes you a debt we can never repay. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the debris field where the battle had taken place. Broken pieces of ships floated in space like metal tombstones. Captain Veltar, no debt is owed. Protecting innocent people is what we do. Commander Lisa Hayes monitored the emergency frequencies as Keplerian rescue ships arrived to help survivors. Sir, they're requesting permission to send medical teams to our ship. Several of their wounded need treatment in our medical bay. Granted, Morrison said immediately. Pete, how are our systems holding up? Chief Engineer Johnson's voice came through the intercom, sounding tired but satisfied. We took some hits, Captain, but nothing critical. The armor held better than expected. I can have us back to full combat readiness in 6 hours. Lieutenant Amy Carter was already running diagnostics on her weapons systems. All guns operational, sir. We used about 60% of our ammunition. Still plenty left if anyone else wants to try their luck. Across the galaxy, the news of the battle spread like wildfire through communication networks and diplomatic channels. In the halls of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were called as representatives struggled to understand what had happened in the Kepler system. Ambassador HFY of the Altarian Federation stood before the council chamber. Fellow beings, we have received confirmed reports of the engagement. A single human vessel defeated an entire Vorthon battle fleet. This changes everything we thought we knew about this species. The Centauri representative, a tall being with silver skin, spoke next. Our intelligence services barely have any information about humanity. They achieved spaceflight only recently by galactic standards. How is such a military capability possible? In another part of the galaxy, Admiral HFY sat in his damaged flagship as it limped toward the nearest Vorthon base. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. But more importantly, he carried news that would shake the very foundations of the Empire. Send a priority message to High Command, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them we have encountered a new species with military capabilities beyond our current understanding. Recommend immediate diplomatic contact before any further military action. Back in the Kepler system, Morrison walked through the corridors of his ship as the crew conducted repairs and tended to wounded Keplerians. The medical bay was full of blue-skinned aliens who had never seen humans before. Dr. Susan Martinez, the ship's chief medical officer, worked alongside Keplerian healers to save lives. Captain, Dr. Martinez called as Morrison entered the medical bay. Their physiology is fascinating. Similar enough to humans that our medical equipment works, but different enough to present interesting challenges. Morrison watched as his crew and the Keplerian medical team worked together. Despite the language barriers and physical differences, they found ways to communicate and cooperate. It reminded him why humans had come to space in the first place, not for conquest, but for connection. On the bridge, Hayes was coordinating with the arriving Keplerian rescue fleet when her console lit up with new contacts. "Captain, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown." Morrison rushed back to the bridge as the tactical display showed 5 new vessels approaching. These ships were different from both the Keplerian exploration craft and the Vorthan dreadnoughts. They were sleek and advanced with hulls that seemed to shift color in the starlight. "This is Captain Rixtal of the Altarian vessel Starseeker," came a new voice over the communications. "We are here to investigate reports of the battle. We request permission to approach." Morrison exchanged glances with Hayes. The Altarians were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, known for their technology and their cautious approach to new contacts. "Permission granted, Captain Rixtal, but please understand that we are currently conducting rescue operations." As the Altarian ships approached, more vessels began arriving. Centauri scouts, Arcturian observers, and even a ship from the mysterious Voidwalkers appeared at the edge of the system. Word of humanity's victory had spread faster than anyone expected. Captain Rixtal's image appeared on the main screen. The Altarian had the typical features of his species: tall, thin, with large eyes and pale green skin. "Captain Morrison, I am here on behalf of the Galactic Council. We have received extraordinary reports about this engagement." Morrison remained standing, his expression neutral. "What kind of reports, Captain Rixtal?" "Reports that a single human vessel defeated 12 Vorthan dreadnoughts," Rixtal said carefully. "Our long-range sensors confirm significant battle damage to Vorthan ships, but we find the tactical reports difficult to believe." Hayes leaned toward Morrison and whispered, "Sir, we're being scanned by multiple ships. They're trying to analyze our capabilities." Morrison nodded slightly, then addressed the Altarian captain. "Captain Rixtal, the reports are accurate. The Vorthan Empire attacked peaceful civilians. We responded accordingly." "But how?" Rixtal asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Our tactical computers have run simulations based on the observed ship movements. They conclude that your victory was mathematically impossible." Carter looked up from her console and spoke quietly to Morrison. "Sir, their computers probably don't account for human tactics. Most galactic species fight by the book." Morrison understood. The galaxy was full of advanced civilizations that had forgotten how to truly fight. They had rules and traditions that made their battles predictable. Humans had learned on Earth that survival meant breaking every rule if necessary. "Captain Rixtal," Morrison said, "your computers are probably correct based on traditional space combat, but humans don't fight traditionally." More ships continued to arrive as news of the battle spread. Soon the Kepler system contained the largest gathering of different galactic species in recent memory. Everyone wanted to see the humans who had accomplished the impossible. Dr. Martinez contacted the bridge with an update. "Captain, the wounded Keplerians are stable. Their captain wants to speak with you personally." Morrison made his way back to the medical bay where Captain Veltar was recovering from injuries sustained when his ship was hit. The Keplerian's large eyes focused on Morrison with an expression of deep gratitude. "Captain Morrison," Veltar said weakly, "my people have been peaceful for thousands of years. We had forgotten that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. You have reminded us of this truth." Morrison sat down beside the wounded alien's bed. "Captain Veltar, your people's commitment to peace is not a weakness. The galaxy needs those who create and explore and build beautiful things. But it also needs those who are willing to fight to protect such people." Veltar nodded slowly. "The other species arriving here, they want to understand how you defeated the Vorthans. They are afraid of your power." "They should be," Morrison said simply, "but not because we want to hurt them. They should be afraid of what happens to those who threaten innocent people while humans are watching." Back on the bridge, Hayes was fielding communications requests from dozens of ships and diplomatic missions. Sir, we have formal contact requests from 17 different species. The Galactic Council wants to open immediate diplomatic relations. 3 different empires are offering trade agreements. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing all the ships that had come to investigate. Just hours ago, most of these species had never heard of humanity. Now they were all desperate to understand what humans were capable of. Lisa, send a message to all vessels. Tell them we appreciate their interest in diplomatic contact, but we are currently focused on humanitarian aid for the Keplerian people. Any formal discussions will have to wait. The message was clear without being insulting. Humans prioritized helping victims over political gain. It was a simple statement that carried profound implications for how humanity would interact with the galactic community. As the rescue operations continued, Morrison realized that this battle had changed more than just the fate of the Keplerian people. It had announced humanity's presence to the galaxy in a way that no diplomatic mission could have achieved. The other species now knew that humans existed, that they were powerful, and that they could not be ignored. But more importantly, they knew that human power came with human values. The USS Defiance had not come to the Kepler system for conquest or glory. It had come to protect those who could not protect themselves. That single fact would shape humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. 3 days after the battle, the Kepler system had become the most important location in the galaxy. Ships from every major civilization crowded the space around the 3 peaceful worlds, their crews eager to observe the humans who had achieved the impossible. Captain Morrison stood in the main conference room of the USS Defiance, facing representatives from 12 different species. The room had been hastily converted from a cargo bay to accommodate the various breathing requirements and physical needs of the diverse group of aliens. Ambassador Thexhai of the Altarian Federation spoke first. Her pale green skin seemed to shimmer under the ship's lighting. Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council has voted unanimously to extend an invitation for humanity to join as a full member. You would have a permanent seat among the major powers. Morrison remained standing, while the various ambassadors sat in chairs adapted for their different anatomies. Ambassador Thexhai, I appreciate the offer, but I'm just a ship captain. Decisions about galactic politics are made by people much more important than me. The Centauri representative, Ambassador Corvain, leaned forward with interest. Captain, surely you understand the significance of what you accomplished here. Your tactics have made every military academy in the galaxy reconsider their entire approach to warfare. Commander Lisa Hayes, standing beside Morrison, consulted her datapad. Sir, we've received formal communications from Earth Command. They're sending diplomatic teams to begin formal contact procedures. Morrison nodded. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure our diplomats will be happy to discuss political matters with you. But right now, my ship and crew have other responsibilities. The Arcturian observer, a crystalline being whose body reflected the room's lights in beautiful patterns, spoke in harmonious tones. Other responsibilities? Surely protecting galactic peace is the highest calling. Before Morrison could answer, Lieutenant Amy Carter's voice came through the intercom. Captain, we're receiving another distress signal. It's coming from the Rigel system, about 6 hours away at maximum speed. Morrison excused himself and stepped to the communication panel. Details, Amy. Unknown raiders attacking civilian transports, sir. The message is fragmentary, but it sounds like another unprovoked assault on peaceful ships. Morrison returned to the group of ambassadors, who had been listening to the exchange with growing interest. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting will have to be postponed. We have people who need help. Ambassador Thexhai stood quickly. Captain Morrison, surely other ships can respond to that distress call. The matters we're discussing here could shape the future of galactic civilization. Morrison looked at each ambassador in turn. With respect, Ambassador, while you've been sitting here talking about the future, people are dying in the Rigel system. The USS Defiance is the closest ship capable of helping them. The Voidwalker representative, a being so alien that it required a translation device to communicate, spoke in electronic tones. This behavior pattern is illogical. A single ship cannot protect the entire galaxy. You're right, Morrison agreed. One ship can't protect everyone, but one ship can protect someone, and that's what we're going to do. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson's voice came through the intercom. Captain, engines are ready for hyperspace. All systems are fully operational. Morrison turned back to the ambassadors. You're welcome to continue your discussions with Captain Veltar and the Keplerian authorities. Our diplomatic teams will contact you when they arrive. Right now, my crew and I have work to do. Dr. Susan Martinez entered the conference room with her medical report. Captain, all the wounded Keplerians have been transferred to their own medical ships. We're ready for departure. The assembled ambassadors watched in amazement as Morrison prepared to leave. They had come here expecting to negotiate with the humans, to understand their motivations and goals. Instead, they were seeing those motivations in action. Ambassador Corvain spoke urgently. Captain Morrison, if you insist on responding to every distress call, you'll never have time for the political discussions that could bring peace to the galaxy. Morrison paused at the doorway. Ambassador, humans believe that peace isn't something you negotiate. Peace is something you protect. The galaxy will be peaceful when those who threaten innocent people know that someone will always come to stop them. As Morrison left the conference room, the ambassadors sat in stunned silence. They had dealt with hundreds of species over thousands of years, but they had never encountered a civilization that prioritized action over discussion, protection over politics. On the bridge, Morrison took his position as the crew prepared for hyperspace. Around him, his 800 crew members went about their duties with the same quiet professionalism they had shown during the battle. They weren't thinking about galactic politics or diplomatic opportunities. They were thinking about the people who needed help in the Rigel system. All stations report ready for departure, Hayes announced. Morrison looked at the tactical display one last time. The Kepler system was now safe, protected by the growing fleet of galactic observers. The Keplerian people could rebuild their lives without fear of the Vorthan Empire or any other aggressor. Take us to hyperspace, Morrison ordered, as the USS Defiance disappeared into the swirling energy of hyperspace. The assembled ambassadors began to understand something profound about humanity. This species didn't fight for territory or resources or political advantage. They fought because they believed that protecting innocent people was more important than any other consideration. Ambassador Thexhai activated her communication system and sent a priority message to the Galactic Council. Council members, we have completed our initial contact with the human species. Recommendation: immediate full membership with all rights and privileges. Secondary recommendation: begin comprehensive review of all galactic defense protocols. Chakandir. The Vorthan Empire. Admiral Zexhai stood before the High Command, delivering his report about the defeat at Kepler. The massive chamber was filled with the Empire's highest military officials, all listening in disbelief as he described the human tactics. High Admiral, Zexhai concluded, I recommend that we avoid any further contact with human space until we better understand their capabilities. These beings fight unlike anything we have encountered. High Admiral Nextor, Supreme Commander of the Vorthan military, studied the battle recordings with growing concern. Admiral Zexhai, you are telling us that one primitive ship defeated our finest fleet? Sir, they are not primitive, Zexhai replied. Their technology appears crude, but their tactical thinking is beyond our understanding. They fight without honor, without tradition, without any of the constraints that govern civilized warfare. The High Command debated for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Vorthan Empire would not risk another encounter with humanity until they developed new strategies and technologies. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's expansion had been stopped by a species they had never heard of. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the USS Defiance raced toward the Rigel system. Morrison sat in his command chair, reading reports about the unknown raiders. The pattern was familiar. Strong predators attacking weak victims, counting on the galaxy's slow response to commit their crimes and escape. Captain, Carter reported from her weapons station, the distress signal has stopped. Either the attack is over or the victims are dead, Morrison finished. How much longer to Rigel? 4 hours at current speed, replied the navigation. Officer Morrison knew they might arrive too late to save the ships under attack, but they would arrive in time to catch the raiders and ensure they never threatened anyone again. That was how humans approached the galaxy, not as diplomats or traitors, but as guardians who answered every call for help. Dr. Martinez entered the bridge with a status report. Captain, I've been analyzing the medical data we collected from the Keplerians. Their physiology is compatible with our life support systems, and several other species show similar compatibility. Morrison understood the implications. If humans were going to protect innocent people throughout the galaxy, they needed to be able to help victims of different species. Doctor, prepare medical protocols for treating alien casualties. I have a feeling we're going to need them. As the USS Defiance continued toward its next battle, word of humanity's victory at Kepler spread to every corner of the galaxy. Some species felt fear at this new military power. Others felt hope that someone was finally willing to stand up to aggression and cruelty. But all of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had emerged from their small corner of space not as conquerors or merchants, but as protectors. They had announced their presence with overwhelming force used in defense of the innocent. The USS Defiance disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it a simple message that would reshape galactic civilization. As long as humans were watching, those who threatened peaceful people would face consequences they could never imagine. The age of unopposed aggression was over, ended by a species that measured victory not by territory conquered, but by innocent lives saved. In the years that would follow, humanity would build more ships like the Defiance and train more crews like Morrison's.